Hello folks, nice to be back with you again. You'll need to bear with me a bit today because I'm not a terrific reader. However, there's something that needs to be addressed about Jerusalem. Many will say that it is not a real place, that we have to assume it's some kind of figurative speech. And what is figurative speech? That's like for example, if you say the guy was like a bull. Well, the guy wasn't like a bull. He didn't have a head with horns. Meant he was big and strong and a force to be reckoned with. So figurative speech can be interpreted in many ways. If you say the guy's like a bull, one person might think he's ornery and has smoke snorting out of his nose. Another one might think he's got huge, massive legs. Another one might think it's his personality. So it leaves open massive interpretation. And with there already being so many words in the Bible and so much written, you don't want wild, massive misinterpretation. This is a God who wrote this book, or a God that had the words put down and used men to pen them. This guy's intelligent. He's not a fool. He arranged the book and set it out so there could be no misinterpretation of it. Really, truly. If you read it, especially if you read it 5 or 6 times, different translations, you will see, as I have, that very little of it can be misinterpreted. And very little of it is figurative or mythological. There was lots of prophecies in the past about, well, mostly the destruction of God's own people. A good hard wallop, as we've learned, because they don't die. They're asleep to God. So for him, it's just a good hard whack, hoping that when they come to life in the resurrection as rebels, that they change their mind, and at the end of the 1,000 years that we've learned about, they will choose life instead of going back to their wayward manner of life and end up being dead, like the real dead, the second death, the final death. So this Jerusalem, it's important, if we're going to get any backing from anybody, it is important to find out if it's a real place. If it's a place that's going to actually be built, and what's going to be going on there. So we need to find out if the characteristics that are spoken of in the scriptures can be misinterpreted as a picture of something, or a mythological thing that's actually a feeling in your heart. Some churches may say that this Jerusalem is a condition within our church. It's peaceful, it has no enemies, something of that nature. So we need to make sure that that's not the case, that it is a real place, or will be a real place, so that we can find the backers to start building it. I've already outlined a whole pile of reasons why it really needs to be built, so the nations can look on and see, yes, it can be done. We can have a sustainable country, city, nation, string of communities, place of sanctuary, however you want to put it. So bear with me on the reading and see if this sounds to you like a mythological place. It's important to find that out. So this is in Isaiah 60, chapter 60, starting in verse 4. This is the Jerusalem Bible. You can choose whichever Bible you want to read. Any one will work. I advise against the Jehovah's Witness one, and another one that they translated or printed. Darn, I can't remember the name. But anyway, theirs is even more hard to understand than a regular Bible. So this is describing Jerusalem. Let's see if it sounds like a figurative place, or a mythological place, or one that would only be in your imagination. It says, "Lift up your eyes and look around. All are assembling and coming toward you, your sons from far away and your daughters being tenderly carried." It sounds like they're coming to a place. And if your sons and daughters are coming there, it sounds like a place of safety. Since the riches of the sea will flow to you, and the wealth of the nations come to you. Come where? Who is supposed to be getting rich here? They will come up for acceptance to my altar to adorn the temple of my glory. Now we're starting to get a little bit of information of why this city is there. This string of communities, this country town, this sanctuary location. It is for God to be glorified. It talks about the wealth of the nations coming in. That's after they've been conquered. Then they will bring tribute, and the tribute will be their finest of everything. Your sons will come from far away. If your sons are coming somewhere, where are they coming to? If you're bringing them from far away, where are you bringing them to? To a condition of mind. Doesn't sound like a God who's trying to write this so we can understand it. That doesn't sound like something he'd write. Your gates will lie open continually, shut neither by day or night, for men to bring you the wealth of the nations. The glory of Lebanon will come to you with cypress, plane, and box trees. So it's even describing the kinds of wood that will come. Why describe the kind of wood that will come to a figurative place? Why not just say wood? Because there would be a variety of fine products coming for building. Violence will no longer be heard in your country, nor devastation and ruin within your frontiers. Well, now it's talking about a border and an area where a crime condition is described, or lack of it. Your people will all be upright, possessing the land forever, a shoot that Yahweh, that is the interpretation of for the name Jehovah, or the particular name given to God in this Bible. A shoot that Yahweh has planted, my handiwork, designed for beauty. It's to beautify God. It's to glorify him. It's for all the people to look on and say, wow, this place is magnificent. How did it get this way? God has put his glory there, or will. And it will be something magnificent. It is to glorify him, not men. Not to say, oh, the men that did this must have been fabulous craftsmen. No, it is to adorn God's place. For most of us, something that's unseen is really hard to believe or grasp. You can describe something that's unseen, but what does it really look like? It's unseen. It's invisible. So most of us have had trouble all our life grasping who God is. But if we have this place now that represents him, he puts his name there. He says, this is my place. This is my home. This is where you could say my feet stand. Since he's not going to stand there physically, he wants something that will represent him. Well, it can't have shoddy craftsmanship. It can't be made with wood with knot holes in it. You wouldn't want to make it with brass or metal when you could make it with gold. For him to be glorified. For us to look on and say, who did that? Wow! This guy must have power or something. A little more. About Zion, I will not be silent. Now this is Isaiah talking. About Jerusalem, I will not grow weary until her integrity shines out like the dawn and her salvation flames like a torch. The nations then will see your integrity and all the kings your glory. They're seeing something in this place. They're seeing a people who are crime-free, who help one another. This is an odd thing nowadays. This would be something that would be strange for people to see. And he says he will not grow weary. He will not give up begging God to awaken his desires for Jerusalem, to awaken his zeal for getting this place built. it was built a number of times back then. But as we've talked about, the prophecies that were written back then were partially fulfilled. Lots of them not completely fulfilled, and they say, why? Did God miss out on a couple things, or was he not complete? Didn't he think of that or this? But the point is, it wasn't just that time he was talking about. That was a mini fulfillment of a major prophecy, and the major prophecy is to be fulfilled when judgment time comes at the beginning of the 1,000 years. And even then, the complete fulfillments of many of these prophecies is not accomplished. It's at the end of the 1,000-year reign that in their full entirety these prophecies are completed. But this is, you could call it the big one. And he goes on, no longer are you to be named. So this is God speaking now, saying to Isaiah to write this, no longer will you be named forsaken, nor your land abandoned. Because that land had virtually nothing on it before. Even if it had some scant towns or communities, they weren't great. But he seems to be talking here about his people that were thrown away, thrown into exile and abandoned by God because of their sins, because claiming to be the virgin Israel, but here were hypocrites and charging their brother's interest and allowing other people to go hungry. In other words, they were rebels against God. But your land shall be called my delight and wedded, for Yahweh takes delight in you, and your land will have its wedding. In other words, he's almost marrying himself to that land. It becomes his, so that he can glorify it and his name can be on it. You who keep Yahweh mindful must take no rest, nor let him take rest, till he has restored Jerusalem and made her a boast of the earth. Again, are we talking about something that figures something else, or something that represents something else? Why? God glorifies himself in some way. The only way we humans really feel that or see it is to have it physically there. Therefore, there will be no more need to imagine about God, because he will represent himself by his people. And we will see him by his people, how they treat one another, how they treat the rest of the world once they're in power to reign over it. It will be a glorious place, the whole planet. Pass through the gates, make way for the people, bank up the highway, clear it of stones, hoist the signal for the peoples. This Yahweh proclaims to the ends of the earth. He's inviting people to come to this place and see it. Those who are crushed and broken, he's inviting to come and be helped, to be granted peace and prosperity, something he offers to everyone. Now here's another piece that's talking about this place being attacked. After it's wealthy, and after it's got good business practices, and after it has made tons of money and is glorious. But God has not yet set his foot there. The Lord Yahweh says this, on the day a thought is going to enter your mind, and you will work out a wicked plan. This is talking about a fella named Gog, which as far as I can see means leader, and leading a group, an army that is coming to plunder Israel. We read a bit about this before. You will say, I will attack this undefended country. How is a figurative or an illustrative place going to be attacked? All these things are pointing to a real place. You will march on this peaceful nation living undisturbed. They will all live in towns and have no walls, bars, or gates. It is to plunder them for loot, I am going to reach out my hand toward the ruins they live in, against this nation gathered out of the nations, these stock breeders, tradesmen who live at the navel of the earth. Gives us an indication of where it is. You could say figuratively it's where everything focused around, but there is a place. And I mentioned it before, Costa Rica is in the center of the earth, or if you're in this part of the earth. Have you come to plunder, God is saying to this person? Of course he has, and God knows it, but he's giving us this speech so we know why he's coming to this place. And how do you plunder a mythological town? Are you amassing your troops with a view to looting, to make off with gold and silver and seize cattle and goods, and come away with unlimited spoil? So now we know this place has plenty. Mr. Gates may have started it and infused $1 billion or $2 billion to get it all set up, but it starts to produce hand over fist and becomes wealthy of its own. Now this person is coming against it with this army that's called Magog. For some reason it's called Magog. So Gog and Magog, leader and his people. As far as I can see, that's what that name is relating to. And now he says, Son of man, prophesy against Gog. Now this time it's Ezekiel. The Lord God Yahweh says this: I set myself against you, Gog. I will turn you around and lead you on and bring you from the farthest north to attack the mountains of Israel. He's bringing him against Israel for a reason. Puts it in his mind or his heart to bring him down there. And it is this: I will break the bow in your left hand and dash the arrows out of your right. You will be killed on the mountains of Israel, you and all your hordes and the nations with you. And I shall make you food for carrion birds and wild beasts. You will fall upon the open countryside. I have spoken. So he brings them on in order to show his power. The largest army of the world, it has conquered the world by this point and has plundered every other nation. And now is coming to this little place that's of no account. There's no army there. There's no bars or gates, or if there is little bars and gates, they're all open. But they're rich. Not running around in Lamborghinis and Ferraris, but they're rich in the possessions that they have developed or earned or built up. They use them to share with others, but also to glorify and build this some location that will represent God. So there will start to be one probably right away. I don't know, a temple or something like that. On that day I shall give Gog a famous spot in Israel, his grave in the valley of Abram. And there Gog and his whole army will be buried, and it shall be called Valley of Hamon-Gog. The reasons that are picked here, I'm not sure. They had something to do with back then. The house of Israel will take 7 months to bury them and cleanse the country. And all the people of the country will dig their graves and be honored for this on the day when I reveal my glory. It is the Lord Yahweh who speaks. Men will be selected to go continually up and down the country to bury those left on the ground and cleanse it. For 7 months they will go searching. If one of them sees a human bone, when they go up and down the country, he will put a mark beside them, and the grave diggers will bury them in the valley of Hamon-Gog. So now you've got an army that comes against Jerusalem, that is brought on by God in order to show his supremacy and his glory. So this army comes, surrounds the city. They're about to attack. We may be petrified in there because this army is huge. It's already conquered the world. Now it comes to plunder this little place that's left. And before it starts, it's plundering. And we may be shaking within that town or that community. As they bend their bows, he strikes them down. There seems to be a way that he does it. The 144,000 that I spoke of, that go to heaven, come back down with the Christ and form this army. But there's also mentioned hailstones and all sorts of other something that could appear to be natural disasters that help to vanquish this king and his hordes, it calls them. So I don't know about you, but in reading all that, it didn't seem like a figurative place, or it didn't seem like a picture of a spiritual state of people in a church and how their mind and heart feels. There's people that are brought there from the nations, people that have had their discipline or punishment and have decided they want to serve God. People that previously called themselves Israel but had to have a good beating to take the hypocrisy and the fraud out of their heart and mind. And after God conquers the planet, then those of Israel come to Jerusalem and remain there. So this place, all those things that I've read, doesn't seem to be a picture of something. It doesn't seem to be an emotion inside your heart or mind. It sounds to me like a real place. And to make the scriptures simple to understand, if the writer was actually concerned about you, he would make it that way. Not so complicated and not open to huge misinterpretation so as to leave us all guessing. He wrote it down clear as a bell. People want to misinterpret it because they want to have everything happening now. They want to say the church is the place to go for all this sanctuary. It's not. It's a place of corruption, misinterpretation. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of beautiful people there. When I see the devotion and the zeal that is in some of the African American churches, holy cow, I wish I could go. They are so excited. And that community probably has some of the most beautiful people in America there. No doubt, in fact. All I can see is pictures on the television that show me about their zeal for God. But they have it. And it is beautiful. You can tell they love their God. And I applaud them. They had a lot of beatings when they first got here. And no doubt that is some of the reason why God was of particular importance to them. They were in a horrendous state and needed something to give them comfort. And they found it. And it was real, and it's going to be more real. Especially when one of these guys, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, whoever it is that has the cash, can infuse it and start Jerusalem. Thanks for listening, folks. And I hesitate to say have a wonderful day because I know there's lots of folks out there depressed, broke, and broken that can't possibly have a wonderful day. But soon, folks, you will. The scriptures guarantee it. If you believe in God, it's assuredly coming. Thank you for listening. You who are paying attention, know that this is for you. It's not for me. You don't even know my name. It matters not who I am. It's a voice crying in the desert, wilderness, from wherever, an obscure place that means nothing, and a name that means nothing, but someone who has searched the scriptures, someone who's read them over and over and over to find out what was the truth and then present it to you in simple, understandable terms. And hopefully that's what's happening. Again, thank you very much. And try to have a wonderful day.